And joining us now, VP of Crop Protection with Growmark, Jeff Bunting is with us. Jeff, great to catch up with you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us here today. And let's dive right in. I think first, just top of mind, we're working through the growing season, Jeff. We're starting to get various crop tours across the country and a lot of private yield estimates. And we're hearing the stories from growers, how things are wet in some areas, especially in the eastern core belt, or have been too wet and then dry in the west and all the heat and everything else going on. So, just as you've talked with your folks across the country on your teams, talked to growers, etc. What are your thoughts on this year's crop? How are things looking, Jeff?
Great question. A lot to unpack there in terms of kind of what we're hearing, what we're seeing, and what we think's out there. And I think we'll see all different extremes from really good crops to some really poor crops. And again, social media kind of allows you to take a look at that right now if you follow different farmers, producers, manufacturers, anybody on that social media channel. You're seeing good things, you're seeing bad things. And if I think about, our network of members and customers, we're hearing the same thing too. There's some really good crops. Like you said, there's been timely rainfalls in some areas. I live in one of the driest counties in the state of Illinois, and we've been dry. One of the things right now is we think about, what's out there. I'm trying to scout the family farm, kind of see what's going on. It looks pretty good. I would tell you, it seems like there's some tip back in a lot of that corn. That thought looks good at 60 mile an hour when you drive by it, but as you kind of go out there and kind of dig into it, you're seeing some pollination issues. I'm not seeing a lot of depth in the kernel, especially on the corn side. But again, I think we'll see a lot of things. There's a you know, it's all based on, you think about June was fairly dry for a lot of us. Then we got into some wet parts of July. Other areas still stayed wet into August. But right now, if you think about the soybean side, we need a rainfall. I mean, that's when grain and yield is made in soybeans is right now, and we've got kind of a dry forecast in a good part of these high soybean producing states, across the U.S. So we'll see a lot of different things, and we'll know a lot more as we get into the latter part of August and into September.
Well, Jeff, what about disease pressures and pest pressures, et cetera, with the crop? Is there anything you've heard this growing season that's been particularly tough, or is there anything still going on right now that we're watching out for closely?
Yeah, I would say, and again, if I think about the overall sales of crop protection, we've had some really strong fungicide sales once again in 2022. Probably higher than we saw in 2021. So diseases out there. I would say it looked fairly clean get into the middle of July, but we're seeing some pockets now of some gray leaf spots showing up. We're seeing some tar spots showing up in certain areas. I do think as we get into kind of this late August, we'll see some late disease coming into the corn crop. On the insect side, it's kind of across the board. We're still selling some insecticides to control some of those spider mites and some of the bugs that we have out there. But all depends on kind of where you're at and what you're seeing in terms of the threshold that justifies that treatment.
Well, Jeff, let's shift gears. Let's move to 2023 as you guys start to kind of put that into focus. I know a lot of growers, they've been watching, they've been wondering, what am I going to see for the cost of inputs? What am I going to see for availability across the countryside? We've heard a lot about, telling growers work with your retailer to make sure you have a plan for 23 ahead of time. We've heard that throughout this year. So, from your perspective, when you look at everything looking into 2023, how does availability look? What are some things that you are maybe wanting to remind growers of as we start to thinking about next year?
Yeah, great question. And again, last week we had kind of a system-wide summit here, with all of our members and board directors. And again, same question as you just posed to me. So let me go ahead and start with probably a lot of the same that we experienced in 2022. But I do see some improvement, in regards to a couple of those things there that you made a comment to. Uh, first off, it's going to start again with good communication, good planning, and working with your retailers in regards to what you're going to need and what you want to do in 2023. From there, we can kind of back up in regards to, okay, so what do we need to kind of procure and position for in terms of those products? Being the herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, the plant growth, the biologicals, all that's a part of it. And one of the things that we see right now, is I think a lot of the things that cause some challenges. You think about the things that we experienced in 22 with some shipping issues, port issues, labor challenges. I think we'll see some improvement there, but we'll still have some issues in terms of maybe active ingredient availability, maybe timeliness in terms of getting things produced, manufactured, packaged, and then delivered. I think those will still continue into it, but I really do feel like we've got a good idea in regards to how to operate. But it's going to start more importantly with the forecasting and planning. Within Growmark, we really started thinking about 2023 back in March. And so even for our first kernel of corn was planted, we saw about 2023 in regards to, okay, let's be thinking about how this is going to kind of fall together. And so we've been doing on 2023 for about 3 to 4 months now in regards to what's that looks what that looks like.
Well, Jeff, I know looking through the Growmark website, you guys have a pretty hefty lineup of crop protection products, of course. And I'm sure if producers want to learn more, contacting their local retailers, stopping by one of your many locations across the country would all probably be good ways to figure out some products for their operation heading into 23.
Yeah, we got a great portfolio, and again, our main resource is that local crop specialist. They're the ones that are tuned to what's going on. They know the portfolios. They can develop the management plans. If plan A doesn't work, we've got a plan B. If plan B is not there, then we got a plan C. They really are our main resource for a lot of the producers and growers that we come in contact with.
Well, I know folks can learn more at growmark.com as well to find their local retailer if they don't know who that is. But again, Jeff, always appreciate the time. Any other final thoughts for us before we run out of time today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. With that, Jeff Bunting with Growmark FS joining us here today on Market Talk.